Welcome to the Two Tokens podcast. During these episodes, we will invite guests onto our show and discuss everything token related. You can expect to hear about token business models, the underlying technology stack, token governance, but also more mainstream topics such as NFTs. Does this sound interesting to you? Then make sure you subscribe and keep listening. And now, on to the episode.
Hi, my name is Jonny Fry from Team Blockchain. I'm delighted today to be joined by David Parsons from NiftyOne on the Two Tokens podcast. David is joining us on the third of our series of masterclasses that we've been running now for the last couple of years. And we're looking at the impact of tokenization and the commercial opportunities. And David, welcome to Two Tokens.
Well, thank you for having me.
So David, it'd be really interesting for the listeners if you can give a bit of background to yourself and what NiftyOne does as a kickoff, please.
Okay. Just to give you a brief history of my background, I've been in the blockchain business, so to speak, for almost a decade now, more than a decade. My background is cryptography. So I have a little bit of understanding of how the mechanisms work in terms of moving digital assets between parties. And
so is that photography or cryptography?
Cryptography, not photography.
I thought I was going to say, what the heck are you doing on this podcast if you're a photographer?
Well,
sorry.
I know.
You got that funny American accent. That's what threw me.
I do. I take pictures. I do math too. I can do 1 + 1. So I'm pretty good in arithmetic computation. So that's pretty good.
Excellent.
Anyway, getting back, my background is really been the experience of moving digital assets and the management of digital assets, like on the blockchain, between financial institutions, between parties, and all of the costs, all of the opportunities that it presents now since the digital assets is exploding into the central banks, into almost every aspect of our daily life. And I'm here to explain what are those opportunities and what are the resources required to manage all of these.
Okay.
All of the activities.
Right. And NiftyOne, what's NiftyOne do? I've heard of Nifty 50.
Yeah, well, there's Nifty 50. Well, NiftyOne is the management of digital assets. So it is the process. It provides the resources, the mechanisms that allow financial institutions, normal retail, law offices to manage digital assets, the movement of digital assets. Because that's a very involved process, and the solutions that we're offering or that we have developed enable anyone in an organization to be able to use digital assets just like they were using regular paper cash in the olden days.
Right. Okay. So let's jump into this. So I go and buy a digital asset. So we know 90% of central banks around the world are looking at central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. So let's just say I go and buy the Société Générale Forge, which is a stable coin investing backed by euros. Now, in the good old days, I would go and give I'd give the bank Société Générale, I'd give them 100 euros, and they would then open up a bank account with them, or they might give me, if it was a debt instrument, might give me a bit of paper which says I owe you, Société Générale owe Jonny Fry 100 euros worth of bonds. So there's a record. It's not that straightforward in some ways, though, with the digital asset, because it's all digitized. And what happens if I forget my password or I lose my hard disk? So that's one of the challenges that you're trying to solve with NiftyOne, isn't it?
Exactly. The digital asset boom, so to speak, the movement towards all of this it's now opened up a whole realm of additional possibilities for folks to purchase digital assets, of course, but it also now moves the responsibility of management of these digital assets onto the person, and that requires certain hardware, certain software that enables them to use it, safeguard it, and use it in daily transactions. In the olden days, you used to have a bank account. The bank used to manage your account, right? Today, you're actually taking physical receipt of the digital asset, and it's your responsibility to manage it, keep it safe, and provide liquidity for it when you want to. You want to use it to purchase something. So
what happens if I lose it or forget my password? That's a bit of a nightmare, dude.
Exactly. You have the obligation now to have some sort of system in place that allows you to recover these lost assets. What are those processes? How much does it cost? How involved is it? How complicated? In the olden days, your bank never lost your money. At least most of the time, they didn't lose your money, right? In your bank account. Once it was in your bank account, it was safe and secure. Now, if you hold the digital assets, what do you do if you lose them? Right? Do they just disappear?
Well,
Right?
why don't I go to a custodian? Why don't I just pay them to look after my assets?
Well, again, custodian holds your digital assets for you.
Yeah.
So today, if you look at the evolution of holding other people's digital assets, and you go to them and say, "Hey, I'm going to give you my digital asset. Please hold on for it to me. When I need it, I'll ask you for it back." The challenge today is that in the olden days, the bank used to hold your gold in the vault. Now, if you give it to a custodian, the custodian doesn't have to give back your gold or your digital asset, to use the metaphor or the analogy. They don't have the assets are so large now. There's really no insurance against it. So a lot of the custodial services today are, as we say, naked custodial services. They don't fully insure that you'll get back when you call for it your digital asset.
Oh.
This is why large financial institutions in New York, such as J.P. Morgan, they do their own custody. They don't outsource it to somebody else because it's just too expensive. There's no insurance. There's too much risk.
Wow. So if you can't get insurance, the only choice is you do self-insurance. So you turn yourself into a little reinsurance company. So you need another solution rather than just relying on someone might do what they say they'll do.
Exactly. Unless you're as big as a JP Morgan with effectively infinite resources who can hire hundreds of people to manage it for you. Because they're holding billions and billions and billions of digital assets. Right. There's no amount of insurance that can guard against that if somebody steals it or another firm loses it for you.
And it's interesting you mentioned JP Morgan, because if you exclude the Chinese banks, JP Morgan is the biggest bank now in the world. And their CEO, Jamie Dimon, I think he joined sort of Warren Buffett and was sort of likening sort of cryptocurrencies, a type of digital asset, to sort of rat poison and don't touch them at all. But now we see JP Morgan almost like the penny's dropped, or in their case, the cent has dropped. And they're saying, oh, actually, we can see the tokenization of all sorts of opportunities. And the JP Morgan coin is now turning over $1 billion a day. So it seems they've gone from not being a fan to realizing that tokenization offers a lot of opportunities. But coming back to NiftyOne, David, I understand that the technology behind NiftyOne is actually has had its applications in other industries. Can you explain a little bit about how did it come to be developed and how it's now being used on a day-to-day basis?
Well, the technology comes directly. The development team, the development team that developed the technology, came from the U.S. defense industry. The encryption, the safeguarding of digital assets was the technical team's business job for almost 20 years, and they developed this technology that safeguards almost all of the U.S. assets, military assets, including NATO assets in the United Kingdom, also in France. We took the same technology using the same engineers and we ported it over to the financial industry, custody of wallets. So the same encryption, military technology that's in the planes, satellites, ships, all of that now is being ported to the financial industry. So we have the same robust investment. The Department of Defense that invested years, billions, almost trillions of dollars into the development of this technology, and now we're exploiting it for the financial industry's use.
Okay, and this takes the format, although you're talking about software then, holding digital information digitally. About it may be the code for the big red button. Heaven forbid that ever gets posted.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So that digital certificate, that digital information is held, but it's held on it looks to me like a big casino chip almost. You've got something in a very tangible physical format, haven't you?
Exactly. So we took the same, because you're holding potentially hundreds of millions or billions of dollars worth of digital assets on a single device. You want that device to be robust. You want it to be radiation hardened. You want it to be physically. You want it to have fireproof. You want to be able to water, throw it in the ocean and still work. So we put it in a robust package in the shape of a coin, a very large coin, 70 millimeters in diameter, and that really protects the assets inside from any external accidents, falling out of an aircraft, dropping into the ocean. You can always recover the device and it'll still work again. So that's the approach that we took to safeguarding your assets. You don't want your assets on a flimsy device that can be easily destroyed.
There's no point in having it on a floppy disk.
No, the floppy disk. No, that would be
not going to work.
Wise.
But you've told me in the past you could drop it from an aeroplane a mile. It can withstand a nuclear fallout within 3 or 4 miles of where the bomb was dropped, or something crazy.
Yeah, it's radiation hardened. The actual silicon is radiation. The actual internals are radiation hardened against EMP, electromagnetic pulse.
So what do I need? Do I need kryptonite to be able to access it? How do I access the information on this little disk?
Yeah, so we provide 2 fundamental ways. Typically, it's wireless. So there's a near field communication, NFC. So it's a wireless interaction with the device itself. So you can either access it with your mobile phone using wireless, or you can access it using a point of sale terminal. So if you go buy your cup of coffee, you can tap it against the point of sale machine, and it'll automatically convert your digital asset into cash for the merchant. So we provide a multitude of ways, typically wireless, in order to access and gain access to these.
David, that's fascinating, because actually the Bank of England put out a report only last week saying that point of sale machines, certainly in the UK, there's no reason why they couldn't actually accept digital assets. They were particularly looking at, obviously, a central bank digital currency. But what you're saying is sorry, I rudely call it a casino chip. It looks like a big coin, a big token. Why that couldn't be then used to actually go and buy a cup of coffee by putting it near a point of sale machine, then, from what you're saying?
Exactly. So today, now, because of it's very easy to steal. A lot of nefarious things are happening with money, and especially in a digitized form. There needs to be a very secure way of paying for things and your digital assets. Keeping it on your phone, all your digital assets on your phone, becomes problematic when you want to keep 50 or 100 or 200,000 pounds on your phone. You don't keep your life savings on your phone, right? That would be unwise. So by putting it on a device, on a small device that is bespoke in terms of safeguarding these assets under most conditions, and you're able to use it to spend at the same time, so it has a very utilitarian value. You can use it to buy your cup of coffee or buy your car, right? You can use the same device to purchase a cup of coffee and purchase your car.
Okay, but David, what happens if I lose my coin? I understand that you've entered into a relationship with a big security company, so I could have a copy of my coin held within the very secure location of a secure safety deposit box.
Exactly. So we have the coin. When the coin is created, when your wallet is created, a twin is created, and that twin is set aside in a safe deposit box under normal banking conditions. And then if you lose your coin, you can retrieve your coin at the bank vault.
So that's the self-insurance that we were talking about.
Exactly. So that's a self-insurance in terms of getting access to it. If one gets destroyed or gets lost, you can go back, and there is another copy that is safeguarded, physical safeguard. You physically have to put your hands on it to get access to it.
Okay, but how do you okay, so but let's say I've got £1,000 on my token, my NiftyOne token, and I've gone and spent £900, let's say, and then I go to the safe deposit box and I take out my copy. What happens when couldn't I go and spend another £900 or £1,000 that's on that version? How do you stop the double spending?
Yeah, it would prevent double spend. So when you went to attempt to try to do a double spend, the coin would come back recognizing a double spend. It's already been spent. The coin
Okay,
was allowed.
so what happens if you lose your coin? Because I know you've got millions on your coin, and I go and buy a Ferrari. What's to stop that transaction happening? Because it's actually not my coin. I've stolen your coin. How do you build in that sort of level of protection then?
Well, two ways. We have a daily limit spend. So
Right.
typically you can set it at 500. So it only convert 500 pounds a day, as an example, or $500 a day. So that's
Right.
one. That's the first level of security. Second level of security is a two-factor authentication.
Got it.
So you would have to, when the transaction initiates, either you receive an SMS or you would have to verify with an app in terms of another layer of identifying you as the proper owner who can make a transaction. So we can add these different layers, and depending upon how much you're spending, if it's less than 100 pounds, you can go straight through. If it's a Ferrari, as you pointed out, you might require a two-factor or a three-factor authentication, depending on how much you're spending. If it's $500,000, you might require a two-factor. If it's several million, you might require a three-factor authentication. You might have to have your attorney, yourself, and then maybe something else if you're using it for corporate purposes.
Got it. Okay. Wow. Okay. And how do people get a little bit more information about Nifty or yourself? Where's the best place people can go to find out a little bit more details, or maybe get some technical specifications or an example of the coin?
Well, you go to the simple way is that the original the hardware developer or designer is called Cheyenne Mint, where we work with them. We're the exclusive agent for them and developer for them. CheyenneMint.com, just like Cheyenne Mountain, but it's CheyenneMint.com.
So
The company
that's
is Cheyenne because it's in Wyoming.
Okay. Can you spell Cheyenne?
CHEYENNE.
Oh,
Cheyenne Mountain, Cheyenne Mint, Cheyenne. I guess Cheyenne Indians, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Okay, well, look, David, thank you very much for joining us on the Two Tokens podcast, and looking forward to a bit later on this afternoon. I know you're going to do a brief presentation to our masterclass attendees, but meanwhile, really interesting. And what we particularly liked about what NiftyOne are doing is giving a real tangible solution to what is proving to be a bit of a challenge as we see more and more assets migrating to be in a digitized format. How do you securely store and look after? So Two Tokens is very much about the commercial opportunities, but also highlighting providers of infrastructure. And obviously NiftyOne is a great example of that, the infrastructure looking after assets. So David, thank you very much again. And we look forward to hearing more from you a bit later on this afternoon.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Okay. Goodbye.
That was it for today's podcast. Thank you for listening in, and please subscribe so you don't miss out on our upcoming episodes. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find our contact details at www.twotokens.org.